Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, your trusted source for financial updates, currency developments, and economic analysis that could shape your future. Today's report brings a pivotal announcement that has sparked worldwide attention, especially among those following revaluation trends for the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong. The moment we've long anticipated may finally be materializing. As Iraq's leadership steps forward with language and intent that hint at major monetary change. In a speech that is already stirring headlines in financial circles, Iraq's prime minister spoke with uncommon clarity about the nation's direction. Though he did not explicitly use the term revaluation, his words were unmistakably weighted with intent. One of the most striking statements came when he said, "Iraq is preparing for a new phase in which its national currency will reflect the real strength of our economy." For many seasoned observers, that declaration signals more than economic optimism. It hints at a recalibration of the dinar's true market value. What caught even more attention was the unexpected reference to the Vietnamese dong. Iraq rarely mentions external currencies in its internal financial discourse, yet the Prime Minister spoke about coordination with Asian financial allies. This implies regional collaboration and potentially synchronized monetary adjustments. The inclusion of Vietnam in the conversation has ignited a wave of renewed interest from global investors, especially given that both Iraq and Vietnam have been monitored under IMF programs and considered revaluation candidates for years. This development isn't happening in a vacuum. Iraq has recently marked major progress on several economic benchmarks. These include reducing its dependency on foreign debt, growing its foreign currency reserves, and aligning with international anti-money laundering standards. When paired with today's announcement, these milestones suggest a nation that has been deliberately preparing behind the scenes for a shift that could soon become public policy. Analysts note that such political statements typically follow substantial groundwork, meaning we are not at the beginning of change but on the brink of its public execution. Supporting this theory are recent reports of high-level meetings between Iraq's central bank and major institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the U.S. Treasury. According to insider accounts, significant progress was made during these discussions, paving the way for the next stage in Iraq's economic revival. Among these advancements is the overhaul of Iraq's digital banking system. New mechanisms for tracking currency, modernized payment networks, and the removal of inefficient financial policies have all been deployed. These systems aren't symbolic. They are foundational technologies that would be necessary to handle a modern currency recalibration. A key element emphasized in the Prime Minister's speech was Iraq's deliberate pivot away from domestic reliance on the U.S. dollar. The country is taking steps to reintroduce the dinar as the primary currency for internal trade and financial settlements. This move signals growing confidence in the Iraqi currency and sends a bold message to the global market. Iraq intends to operate independently and assert its financial sovereignty. Economically, shedding dependence on the dollar tends to strengthen a nation's currency. It reflects autonomy, stability, and belief in future growth potential. Alongside this, Iraq has introduced digital payment platforms, implemented biometric security for bank clients, and struck agreements with international financial institutions to enhance cross-border payment operations. These aren't random updates. They are clearly part of a calculated strategy to integrate Iraq into the global financial ecosystem at a higher level. The rollout of these systems, combined with today's bold language from leadership, makes it clear Iraq isn't just planning, it's executing. Add to that Iraq's increased oil output and the rising export revenues, and the picture becomes even more compelling. Oil remains Iraq's economic backbone, and there's emerging talk that the nation may begin pricing some oil contracts in dinars instead of U.S. dollars. If this transition occurs, it would substantially increase global demand for the IQD, reduce circulation, and organically drive up the currency's value. The strategy goes even deeper. Iraq has been growing its gold reserves and strengthening its partnership with China through Belt and Road initiatives. These moves not only diversify Iraq's economic support, but also reinforce the foundation for a credible, sustainable revaluation that could gain global respect and longevity. Building on these robust developments, the conversation naturally shifts toward potential exchange rates. While no official rates have been released to the public, many respected economists and financial analysts have begun projecting possible outcomes based on Iraq's current economic performance. Their estimates place the value of the Iraqi dinar anywhere between $0.67 and $0.63 USD per IQD. These figures are rooted in real-world data, specifically Iraq's oil revenues, macroeconomic forecasts, and benchmarks aligned with IMF valuation models. The Vietnamese dong, which has been increasingly referenced in tandem with the dinar, also carries compelling projections. Analysts have floated possible revaluation estimates ranging from $0.47 to $0.86 USD per VND. These figures might appear conservative compared to the IQD, but for holders with significant quantities, even these rates could deliver notable returns. To place this in perspective, a single 25,000 Iraqi dinar note exchanged at $0.37 would be worth $9,275.00 USD. If the rate hits the higher estimate of $0.63, the same note could yield $15,625.00 USD. These are the kinds of numbers that shift lives and redefine long-term financial planning. And even at the lower end of the VND estimates, investors stand to benefit in ways that are far from negligible. However, it is essential to approach this moment with clarity and caution. Revaluation will not unfold as a sudden free-for-all. Iraq's leadership has underscored that this is a carefully controlled economic transition, not a chaotic windfall. There will be formal phases. Early access may go to structured contract holders and licensed financial institutions before opening more broadly to the public. The process will likely involve formal redemption procedures, secure transaction platforms, and specific security protocols. That means walking into your local bank the next morning expecting instant cash out is unrealistic. Instead, holders of these currencies should monitor for verified updates from financial authorities, including central banks and licensed foreign exchange providers. These entities will release official instructions, currency rate sheets, and step-by-step redemption guidelines as events unfold. Equally important is guarding against scams. During pivotal times like these, opportunists often emerge. Be wary of unsolicited offers through text messages, emails, or social media platforms. If something sounds too good to be true or demands upfront access or payment, treat it with caution. Only interact with authorized financial institutions and vetted currency dealers. The goal is to benefit from the revaluation, not fall victim to fraud in the final stretch. On a related note, Vietnam's presence in this evolving dialogue is significant. The country has been modernizing its financial infrastructure behind the scenes, quietly implementing new banking laws, expanding trade agreements across Asia, and introducing secure digital transaction platforms. These upgrades mirror many of the reforms already completed in Iraq, prompting some experts to suggest that Vietnam may be poised to follow closely behind with a similar move. While a simultaneous revaluation isn't guaranteed, there's growing speculation that both countries could act within the same strategic timeframe. If such a scenario plays out, holders of both IQD and VND may find themselves in a rare position to benefit from two converging currency revaluations. This kind of dual opportunity, if it materializes, could be historic, both in terms of personal wealth generation and macroeconomic impact. So what practical steps should you take now, especially with both the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong gaining global attention? First and foremost, ensure your currency holdings are legitimate and securely stored. Maintain all related documentation, including proof of purchase and transaction history, as this may be necessary during the redemption process. Clear records of ownership can be the difference between a smooth exchange and a complicated verification delay. Next, maintain vigilance. This is a high-stakes period where bad actors may circulate misinformation or launch deceptive offers targeting hopeful currency holders. Avoid clicking suspicious links, responding to unsolicited texts, or engaging with anonymous online posts that promise early access or secret redemption portals. Stick to trusted financial institutions, and whenever possible, consult directly with your bank's foreign exchange department to inquire if any internal memos or systems updates hint at readiness for foreign currency exchanges. Some banks are reportedly upgrading back-end platforms to handle potential revaluation events quietly, especially in wealth management or foreign exchange divisions. If you have access to a relationship manager or private banking contact, now may be the time to ask subtle but direct questions. A proactive approach can offer an informational advantage without exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. It's also worth repeating that none of this should be interpreted as formal financial advice. While we provide curated updates and expert interpretations here at Iraqi Dinar News, the decision to buy, hold, or exchange currency is a personal one and should be made based on your individual situation and in consultation with professionals where needed. That said, the facts before us are becoming increasingly hard to ignore. When a nation's prime minister speaks of currency strength and economic realignment in such direct terms, we're no longer in the realm of hopeful speculation, we're in the early phase of public execution, a phase that follows long-standing preparation. And that preparation appears to be nearly complete. Iraq's digital banking infrastructure is operational. Foreign currency reserves are stronger than they've been in years. Oil production is climbing, and new export channels are being opened, possibly priced in dinars. The country's alignment with emerging global players like China and new trade frameworks hints at a deliberate realignment of influence and leverage. The language from top officials is now matching the quiet efforts made over the last several years, suggesting the countdown isn't just theoretical, but active. We're hearing whispers from credible sources that an official rate announcement could drop in the coming days. If that happens, the window for preparation will close quickly. Make sure you're ready before that moment comes. And if Vietnam follows suit, the ripple effect across undervalued currencies could reshape regional economies and financial forecasts worldwide. That's why today's announcement matters. It isn't just a policy update, it's a pivot in momentum. And for the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong communities, it's one of the strongest indicators of movement we've seen in over a decade. We want to close by sincerely thanking you, our dedicated audience, for standing with us through the ups and downs. You've asked thoughtful questions, shared detailed research, and stayed committed. Now, as events accelerate, remember, this is not the time to get swept up by hype or panic. It's the time to stay focused on real signals and ignore the noise. If you're joining Iraqi Dinar News for the first time, we welcome you. Our commitment is to deliver verified updates without exaggeration or speculation. If you found this content useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable alerts. The next few days might redefine everything, and we'll be right here tracking every major move.